and Lenny Suskin. The four of us spent our youth together. We dated together. We went to school. I went to grade school with Al and Marv. Al and I met in the second grade. I was 8 years old. And Marv joined us, I think, 2 years later in the fourth grade. And we all palled around, and Al had a cousin, Benny, who lived in Kingston, New York. He would come down on weekends and we'd go out. We'd always quadruple date, you know, we always dated in groups. And we had wonderful times.
Honey, would you tell the story about when you were a little younger and you were in Hebrew school and your friend Kaiki, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Tell them that.
You want?
Sure.
My God, I'm going
I love it.
to talk you to death here. When I was about 6 years old, 7 years old, my father registered me in a Hebrew school. It's time to start learning Hebrew. So it was someplace down Franklin Avenue, I don't know. Franklin Avenue is where the store was.
Yeah.
And further down past Eastern Parkway was a shul of some sort. And that's where he registered me to go to Hebrew. Well, they had a bus. It was a pickup truck with 2 benches in it, alongside the way. And this pickup, you know, a putt-putt. And they picked me up and took me there. And on a rainy day, you got wet. On a snowy day, you got snow laden. But this truck was, in those days, was as old as the hills. And it used to have the hubcap, not the hubcap, the radiator cap up front with a thermometer on it. And invariably, it would pull up and the steam is pouring out. So one day, picks me up at the school and takes me home, and this thing is steaming like crazy. And he says to me, "Your store have water?" I said, "Yeah." He stops the truck right in the middle of the street, gets out, runs out to my father, he gets a pail of water, comes back and pours it into the truck, and it subsides. And I didn't stay there very long. I didn't like that school. So then my father enrolled me with this rabbi. Rabbi ran a little school about a block away on President Street and Franklin Avenue, right above the candy store. He had a big room and he set it up with desks. He had about 6 or 8 desks. And he had a chalkboard there, and he had a big yarmulke and a long beard flecked with yellow from tobacco, and had very bad breath. So I went to school there, and a couple of my buddies went with me. We all had names in those days. There were, one friend is named Iggy. My name was Kaiki. Morty was another name, and Eisen was another one. I don't know why. That was his real name, Eisen. Fatty Eisen, we called him. So anyway, we were all in the class together. Now, these old desks, if you can visualize it, there's a desk in the front of it is the seat for the desk in front. So the front of your desk is the seat for the next desk. But you can reach underneath and touch the fellow's foot, right? Okay.
It's a cute story.
I'm sitting in the front, and the rabbi's got a big pointer, and I must have been talking or something, and he hits me on the shoulder with the thing, and it hurts. So he says, "Pay attention," you know, boom.
They used to hit. Oh,
So, and it hurts. It was a piece, it's a stick, you know. So then something else happens. I had to recite, it was wrong. Pow! I said, "Don't hit me again. I'll kick you." So he looks at me, and he hits me again, and I pull my foot back to kick him. Iggy's sitting behind me. He grabs me by the ankle. He says, "Don't do it. Don't do it." I said, "I'm going to kick him. I'm going to." He said, "Don't do it." He says, "Okay," and he leaves go of my foot. Well, it springs forward, and it hits the rabbi right in the shin. Oh, that hurts. I kicked him in the shin, and he gave a howl. Iggy says, no, yeah, Iggy says, Kike, let's get out of here. We grab our books and run down the stairs. The rabbi's chasing us. And this black coat is flying, and he's hurting, he's limping. And he's got this beard with the yellow flecks of tobacco and the bad breath, the whole bit. We run to the store. Iggy runs into my father. He says, the rabbi's chasing us. My father, what? Did the rabbi hit Jerry? He hit Jerry. He forgot to tell him that I kicked him.
Well, but
Sure enough, the rabbi walks in, and my father was a very quiet man, very docile, wouldn't touch anybody. He says, you hit my son? So we said, he's kicked. Get out, I don't want to see you. And he chased him out. Then he looks at me, he says, what happened? I said, nothing. And he says, he kicked the rabbi. You kicked the rabbi? He sits down and says, oi, Jerry, you shouldn't do that. So then he has to raise, he signed me up to another school. This is the keeps. The Talmud Torah of Crown Heights. And that's where Rabbi Kahane came from. And that was a real yeshiva. That was the school. So that's where I stayed.
And he can daven to this day. He can daven as if he was...
Yeah, so
he doesn't know what it means,
I went
but he
through
can
my bar
daven.
mitzvah. Then they said, you're going to go on to confirmation. I said, forget it. So I had 8 years of Hebrew. Started out at 5 and finished at 13. And I had a nice singing voice. I had to read this Haftorah for my bar mitzvah.
Did you know he has a nice singing voice? Did you know that?
You know, I didn't know that Jerry had a nice singing voice. I knew that my mother could not sing.
No, she was tone deaf.
Yeah, that was being
But you had a
polite.
great uncle who was a cantor.
Well, on my father's side, everyone could sing. On my father's
Well,
side...
I'm talking about your mother's
Oh, on
side.
my mother's side. Okay, see, I didn't know my mother's side. But I know my father's side, everyone sang. It was to the point where if you didn't sing as well as the next one sang, you would be almost ridiculed. I mean, everyone on my father's side.
Well, my
No,
Uncle
my
Joe...
father sang. My father sang.
My Uncle Joe, my father's brother,
That's my, I
was a
sang with my
cantor,
father all my life.
but he made a
From
living
the
as a
time I was
barber.
5 years old.
Cantor, he did his cantoring on the high holidays. He had a nice voice, but he couldn't make a living that way. So he was a barber.
I didn't know that my mother got her nose fixed, though. That was an interesting one.
And you got your
Your mother
nose.
got her nose fixed?
You got your nose fixed.
Yeah.
I learned that from
Who'd you learn that from?
you. Actually,
I think I told you.
or did Della have told me? I don't know.
Well, she needed it.
Yeah. Who, my mother?
Yeah, she had a hook
Well,
nose.
mine was actually a medical situation.
Oh,
I had a deviated septum,
oh yeah.
and so
So
the
you,
doctor said,
yeah. You
as
get
long as he was
sinus
fixed,
infections.
yeah, he said as long as you have a deviated septum, he said, and we can do some cosmetic stuff
Might
as well.
They're going
So
in
I
there.
said fine. So in other words, it wasn't like
You didn't do it strictly for vanity.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got the
but I got the benefits of it.
Right.
Those days
But it didn't hurt, right, Dad?
Yeah.
I should have offered you
Well,
some
he doesn't
tea.
know.
His eyes are closing. The poor guy. You must have been up since dawn this
He was
morning.
getting to bed late last
Can I
night,
get you
the
some
previous
tea?
night.
Would you
No,
like a
I
cup
don't
of
want
tea?
to wake up.